Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste and a very warm welcome to yet another session in our Weekend with Wisdom series. And in this series, we have been reflecting on Jnana Meets Bhakti, drawing perspectives from Brahma Sutras and Bhakti Sutras. This is the second talk in the series, and today we will be delving deeper into Bhakti. Yesterday, we learned a lot about Jnana, and today we are all looking forward to knowing more about Bhakti. Thank you so much, Shubhani ji, for joining us and guiding us through this topic.
Thank you. We'll start.
Yeah, let's start with an invocation. Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sah viryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om, everyone. So today we'll continue on the series of Jnana Meets Bhakti. And yesterday we clearly saw Jnana. What is Jnana according to Adhyasa Bhashya, the prelude to Brahma Sutra? Jnana is knowing something as it is. So knowing something exactly as it is knowledge. And that knowledge we refer to in Vedanta is the knowledge of the self. The knowledge that I am really Brahman, that I am not this limited being, limited body, mind, intellect, ego, that I am Brahman. And not only that, but the appearance, the whole world is just an appearance. It's an appearance on me. It does not exist apart from me. And I didn't touch upon this too much yesterday, as it was not extensively in the Bhashya, but I'll just touch upon that a little bit today so we can get the full meaning of that jnana, and then we will move to bhakti. So when we say that the whole world is an appearance on us, what we really mean to say is that the whole world it cannot exist without us. Without us, who? That consciousness or that awareness. So when we see anything, so for example, seeing this book, right? When we see this book, right? How is this book known? How is this book experienced? It's experienced through my eyes, my sense of sight. And so this book is experienced through my eyes, and those who do not have eyesight do not have experience of this book. If we hear a certain sound, how is that sound experienced? Through our ears. And if somebody does not have the capacity to hear, then they do not experience that sound, right? So just think, for somebody who does not have the required sense faculties to experience sense objects, that part of the world is blocked out for them. And then we look at it deeper, that how exactly it is something experienced by my sight. It's because my mind is focusing on it. If the mind is not focusing on it, even if I'm in front of you, you won't see me. Or even if I'm speaking to you, you won't hear me, because the mind isn't focusing on that particular sense faculty. And so therefore, again, it comes to the mind. So even if our senses seem to be open and there, sometimes we're really spaced out and we're just not there. So the mind, again, is required for it to be experienced. And what lies beyond the mind? Is there something that lies beyond the mind? This is our direct experience. It's our direct experience that there's something that lies beyond the mind because we are aware of our thoughts. We are that very sakshi, that very consciousness that's aware of our thoughts. The very fact that we are aware of our thoughts, we understand what kinds of thoughts are coming to our mind, that means that there's something that lies beyond our mind. That is point number one. And point number two is even when the mind is not there, we are there, such as in deep sleep or in samadhi. So it is our direct experience that there lies something beyond the mind. And that which lies beyond the mind is called consciousness, awareness, that reality, that Brahman. So because of that pure awareness, our mind is able to experience through our sense faculties, and our sense faculties are able to illumine objects. So what we're saying when we say that the whole world appears on me is that the whole world depends on awareness, not on my individual awareness, on awareness. The minute we say my individual awareness, again, we are presupposing that we have different atmans. The whole world depends for its existence and experience on pure awareness, on Brahman. And because of that, then we say that the whole world appears on me, pure consciousness. Some might say that, well, okay, I may not be experiencing this book right now because maybe my mind is not there, but your mind is experiencing that book. Yes, that's true, but go to the level of what is causing all experiences in all minds, in all beings, in all times. What is causing that experience? What is making that experience possible? And that which makes all experiences in all minds, in all places, in all times possible is only awareness. So even if I am seeing this book, and you are not seeing this book, so it's here for me, but not there for you, we cannot change the fact that everything exists in awareness alone, right? So our particular experiences may depend on our mind, but all experiences depend upon consciousness. Nothing exists out of awareness. Nothing exists out of awareness. So if you think of every single experience, every single thing we've read, we've said, we've learned, we've known, everything only falls within the realm of awareness. And therefore, we say that the whole world is appearing on us. So yesterday, Adi Shankaracharyas, through his Adhyasa Bhashya, made it very, very clear that we are superimposing, we're having this superposition where we think that we are limited. We think we are the body, mind, and intellect. Not only that, but we think that the body or mind and intellect could be that Atma that we're talking about. He makes that very clear in Adhyasa Bhashya. And in many of his commentaries in our Upanishads, he makes it very clear that the world is also an appearance on Brahman. So we shouldn't just stop there. We shouldn't stop at, I'm not the body, mind, intellect, I am truly Brahman, and then stop. No, if we stop there, that is not knowledge. That is not jnana. Because if we stop there and we still give reality to the world, then what happens? We're still pursuing the world. We're still running towards the world. We're still running away from the world. And we will try our best to find some quiet place where we can just be and revel in that Atman that we are. And Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji said very beautifully, moksha is not freedom from action. It's freedom in action. If we're so afraid to be in the world, why are we so scared? If it's just an expression, an appearance on me, that pure consciousness, why are we so afraid about it? Why are we so threatened by it? It is true that for certain spiritual practices, we do need to go into solitude. We do need to ground ourselves. That is very true. But even such a saint, who goes into deep solitude, when they emerge from their samadhi, they are not afraid of the world and the things around it, the things in and through it. So full jnana must be these two things, that I am Brahman and that whole world appears on me. And as I said yesterday, that jnana is not real jnana. Knowledge is not real knowledge until and unless it's transformative. Many times we intellectually understand, and knowledge is intellectual only. Please know that knowledge takes place in the intellect. It doesn't take place anywhere else, because the problem is a wrong notion, and therefore the solution is knowledge. So knowledge takes place at the intellect only. It takes place at the thought level. It's not going to take place any other way. So it takes place at the intellect. Yes, but that knowledge which takes place at the intellect has to also be subjective, has to also be transformative. So it's not only that I know that Atman is different from the body, mind, and intellect, but I am that one. Not only do I know that Brahman is the substratum of the world, but I am that. And it has to take place in the intellect in such a way that it goes through every single pore of our being. It penetrates every single pore of our being, so that we are living knowledge. We are living jnana. And that's what we see in our saints and sages. So when we read the Upanishads and study them very clearly under a qualified teacher, we will get knowledge. But when we also read the lives of saints and sages and explore the life of bhakti, we will get knowledge drenched in love. And that is the purpose of bhakti, is to have this knowledge drenched in love, so that every single part of me is immersed in only that. Now, yesterday I concluded with the fact that the mind has its issues. As much as we do repeated shravanam or mananam and even nididhyasanam, the mind has its issues. It has things that are going on in it. So what do we do with this mind? Knowing I'm not the mind, work with the mind. So I'll repeat that again. Knowing I'm not the mind, work with the mind. Because it is at the level of the mind that needs work. Atman doesn't need work. Atman doesn't need work. Atman is ever pure. Atman doesn't need to be liberated. Atman is ever free. But the issue is that even if I understand, know truly that I am Atman, this mind forces and pushes me to forget that knowledge. It somehow takes me away from it, although I can never be away from it. Please also understand, we can never be away from it, right? How far does the pot need to travel to know that it's clay? Doesn't need to travel. How far does the gold bracelet or gold necklace need to travel to know that it's gold? It doesn't need to travel. So Atman doesn't need to be free. Atman doesn't need to be purified. Atman doesn't need to know because it doesn't have ignorance. Atman doesn't need to travel anywhere. So as pure Atman, I am already that. But even if as Atman, I already am that, still my ego, my mind, intellect, ego equipment still strives or still struggles with this knowledge because it's unable to soak itself in it. It's unable to completely soak itself in it. So even if 100 times the scripture tells me I'm still confused, I'm still lost, I'm still struggling, and worst part is I still feel like I don't know the truth. I still feel like I'm bound. So many times the scriptures will say, you are free, you are liberated, you are Atman, you are infinite. I still feel ignorant, still feel bound. I'm still struggling with this. I'm just going through all of these motions again and again. And as I said to you yesterday, the one who has come to Vedanta has double knowledge. I know I shouldn't be angry, but I'm getting so angry. And so because there is this struggle for somebody who's not established in the path yet, bhakti is brought in. Bhakti. What is bhakti? Bhakti is devotion. I'll introduce exactly what bhakti is in the Narada Bhakti Sutras, but first I want to sort of tell you how and where bhakti applies, why it is so, it's given such importance in our scriptures, and some examples of also great Advaitins who are bhaktas, and then we will go into the definitions of bhakti. So bhakti, or what we translate in English as devotion, in the beginning stages, even before coming to Vedanta, bhakti is incredibly helpful. Why? Because it is said that due to Ishvara's grace alone, the vasana of Advaita becomes alive. Due to Ishvara's grace. And how is Ishvara's grace obtained? By the worship of Ishvara. So in the beginning stages, we won't even be able to comprehend what Brahman is, what this reality is. To come straight to Advaita is a leap. It's a great, great leap. And so bhakti sort of gives that platform that says, build this connection with something that's greater than you. There's something greater than you that's infinite, greater than you meaning this limited being, greater than you that's infinite, that's nameless, that's formless. But before you get to that, grasp this Ishvara, grasp this form of God, this name of God, this ability to worship God in so many different ways. Grasp that, because after all, we are social beings. So we start on the spiritual path as complete extroverts. We're extroverts. We like to go out. We like to see things. We like to go here. We like to go there. And we're complete extroverts in the spiritual path. And to come to Advaita Vedanta is a hike. Is a hike. So this path of bhakti provides a platform by which we can satisfy all of our senses. Because in the practice of bhakti, we use all of our senses. In the practice of Advaita Vedanta, we withdraw everything. In bhakti, we use our mind to the best capacity. In Vedanta and Jnana, we withdraw that very mind. So for some of us, many of us who come to the path with such extroverted thinking and feeling and capacity, then what do? See with our eyes, see that form of God or goddess that draws us, that we don't want to see anything anymore. Surdas Ji says, once he got the vision of Bhagavan, and he says, after seeing you, after even being able to see right now, I don't want to see anything else. So see that form of Bhagavan with the eyes. And our temples are so great at this, because when you go, there's such beautiful alankara that you want to just go and see that form of Bhagavan. We want to just go and see that form of Bhagavan. So what happens in our temples is that we wait in the line for hours and hours. And while we're waiting in the line, that's also process, because we can chant, we can sing, we can revel in the glory of Bhagavan. And when we go to see, what happens is we close our eyes. Because in and through this, we intuitively know that God is inside. But you see, we had to go through all of that, look out to look in. That is bhakti. The same way when we hear bhajans, right? We want to hear music. We get accustomed to music, to sound, to all of these different rhythms. We get accustomed to all of that, and we listen and we hear. And sometimes we get so entranced in a bhajan that just fall silent, right? So what does bhakti do? It makes us hear so much that we fall silent. It makes us see so much that we close our eyes. Bhakti is also in the field of karma yoga. Karma yoga, bhakti, these are intertwined. And there cannot be karma yoga without bhakti, and there cannot be bhakti without karma yoga. And Gurudev says, you can give without loving. Gurudev Swami Chinmayanandaji, he says you can give without loving, but you can never love without giving. When we love something or somebody, our natural expression is we just want to give. We just want to give. We love somebody. We're so close to them. It's just, what do you need? What can I get you? What can I give you? We just want to give. So also that bhakti and karma yoga, they come in together because when we love something so dearly, right, then we want to give. We want to serve. We want to do so much. And in that peak moment of that karma yoga, immersed with bhakti, after that, we're able to sit quietly and silently. It takes an active mind to sit silently. Remember, a lazy mind can never sit silently. We have to pass through this mode of activity to be able to say, let me now go with him. Only when we've completed our dharma, when we have done whatever we have to do, then we can go with him. So bhakti in the beginning stages for a seeker provides that platform by which we go out to come in. That is the beauty of bhakti. And anybody can access that bhakti. So even a child, we cannot tell a child, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. We cannot tell a child. But we can tell a child, Om Namah Shivaya. And that child can, just grab into it. So in this way, anyone can start on bhakti. Anybody. And for karma yoga, we need some minimum starting requirement. What do we have to have a physical body that's apt, that's able to serve and work. If we're not able to serve and work, karma yoga becomes difficult. Karma yoga also presupposes that we need resources at hand. We have to have some money, some food, some shelter, so that we can be able to serve. And when I say karma yoga, please don't think it's only social service out in the world. It's doing our very duties at home. With that, Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, dedication to Bhagavan, and Prasada Buddhi. That being able to accept whatever happens. So in Karma Yoga, we need all of these things. And then what to talk of in Raja Yoga? Come to Ashtanga Yoga. You need yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, right? We need all of these limbs. We need to practice satyam, brahmacharya, ahimsa. We need to practice all of these values. For Raja Yoga, our bodies need to be fit in a certain way that they can sit still so that they actually can concentrate. Because Raja Yoga is a path of concentration, a path of mastery over the mind and senses. That's not easy. And Jnana Yoga, what do we need? Athato Brahma Jignasa. After the Adhyasa Bhashya, it says how Brahma Jignasa develops. The desire for knowledge is through sadhana chatushtaya. So when we have these qualities of a seeker, then slowly that desire for Brahman will come. So to walk into Advaita Vedanta, we must have some qualification. But to walk into Bhakti, what do we need? We don't even need bodies that are fit. Surdashi was blind. We don't even have to have resources, lots of wealth or food or home. Surdashi was traveling. He was traveling and traveling until he settled down in a temple. So for bhakti, all that's required is that love, that surrender, that willing to know. So in the beginning of spiritual life, it becomes such an open path. It becomes such an open path for everybody that everybody can just walk in. All accepted. If you want to come to Karma Yoga, this line is for you. You must have a body able to work. You must have all of these resources. You must have all of these things. This is for you. If you want to come to Ashtanga Yoga, Raja Yoga, this is for you. You must have this, 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 this. If you want to come to Jnana Yoga, Sadhana Chatushtaya. But when you come to Bhakti, you walk in with love, you walk in with surrender. Really, you walk in with a pure heart. And that's what makes it such an open path to everybody. Then also what happens in Bhakti is it exudes or it supplements every single path. If we do Karma Yoga, imagine doing Karma Yoga without love. It doesn't work, right? Karma Yoga, performing action, it doesn't work without love. Because the very first thing about Karma Yoga is that it has to be dedicated to something higher. It has to be towards something higher, love for something higher. So karma, what makes Karma Yoga, is actually that love. It's actually that bhakti, that devotion for such a high altar. That whether I am serving my family at home, whether I am serving my community, I'm doing it for a greater purpose, for a greater good. What makes Raja Yoga? If you think about it, Raja Yoga is the path of utmost focus, right? And concentration. There are a lot of exercises for the yogis to focus, and they have to go through dharana, dhyana, samadhi. But what holds focus? What makes us concentrate on something so incredibly fully that we forget everything else? What makes us concentrate fully that we forget everything else? That's called love. Because only when we have love for that support, love for that object that we contemplate on, then only we're able to rule everything out. So again, what makes Raja Yoga is also this secret ingredient of love. And as I said, Jnana Yoga. What makes Jnana Yoga? It's not just knowing, right? It's that expression of it. A true Jnani is one who is able to love and to accommodate all. That is a true Jnani. Say ahuryamanam achala pratishtam. This comes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Is able to accommodate everybody, all the rivers, all the oceans, all the lakes, every single body of water, every single type of being, the Jnani is able to accommodate. And the Jnani is able to accommodate like the ocean without being carried away or disturbed. Just so vast and so. And why is the Jnani able to accommodate everyone? Because if you see on top of the ocean, there's so many waves, but underneath the ocean, there is because the Jnani is rooted in stillness. It's rooted in knowledge of the truth. So when the Jnani is rooted in knowledge of truth, the expression of that on top, like the ocean, is the ability to accommodate all. So we see first that in the beginning stages, bhakti is that which is open to all. Anybody can come to bhakti, anybody. And we also see that in the paths of practicing Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga, that bhakti is something that supplements. It's actually that not only supplements, but it's the heart of those practices. It's what makes those practices full. It's what brings those practices to fruition. And then we also see that bhakti provides a sort of strong armor. Strong armor against what? What tends to happen in Karma Yoga? In Karma Yoga, when we begin to do work for the welfare of society, for our family, for our community, a sense of pride creeps in sometimes. A sense of pride that I am doing so much, that I am so great, that I have given so much. What about you? You haven't done. And then when it comes to that, spirit of appreciation, when everybody's wanting to appreciate everyone who's part of this project or part of this endeavor, and let's say we didn't get appreciated, why didn't they recognize me? Why didn't they say anything about me? So in the path of Karma Yoga, this mada, pride, creeps in, can creep in. And what, quells that pride, what stops that pride rather, is this bhakti. Because through bhakti, we understand that everything is God's grace. Everything is the grace of Bhagavan and nothing else, right? The very fact that we are able to do, the very fact that we are able to give, to serve, that is the grace of Bhagavan. So keeping that in mind, then this pride is stopped in Karma Yoga. In Raja Yoga, there's also a tendency to become proud when in practicing Raja Yoga, some siddhis may be attained. So if you see in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, in the sutras, there are practices which one can do to attain certain things. And when someone attains a certain siddhi, a certain power, what can happen is one can become so proud about it, that I am able to do this. I can conquer my mind. I can conquer my senses. I can focus on this. I can levitate, whatever it may be. I have this siddhi. I can be underwater for so long. Again, pride might creep in. And so when this element of bhakti is there, that again, everything is possible only through the grace of Ishvara, then that pride is also stopped. It's stopped. And what to talk about jnana? In jnana, what happens? Again, pride swells, it comes up. It comes up. I know this knowledge, but other people don't know. The feeling of superiority. I am superior than anybody else. I know all of these Upanishads or this Gita, and nobody else is studying. And so I feel better. I am Brahman and you are not Brahman. So some kinds of feelings, all wrong notions creep in the mind. And with, again, this bhakti, there is no such talk of it. Because again, even the fact that one came to this knowledge, the fact that one is able to gain this knowledge, and the fact that one is able to remain in this knowledge, that is due to the grace of God. Some might think, but isn't there any self-effort involved? Yes, there is self-effort. But let me tell you what self-effort is. God's grace is available to all. It's available to all. It is there. It's always there. And it's available to all. All we are really doing is tuning into that grace. So Bhagavan is that seat of Ananta Guna Dhama, right? Rupa, the one with infinite names and forms. the one who is Sarvagnya, the one who's all-knowing, Sarvashakti, all-powerful, the one who is all-capable. This is Bhagavan. And so Bhagavan is this abode of all knowledge, all power, all capacity, all strength. And that's always there. And all we do when we connect to Bhagavan, we connect to that Bhagavan, what happens is we tune in and we receive that grace. So that source of knowledge and power and strength is not us. It's Bhagavan. All that's happening is we're just tuning into it. We're just tuning into it so that some of it can seep in. How much of it can seep in, depending on our capacity to receive. So if we're able to receive this much, that much only. If we're able to receive this much, that much will come. Right? So therefore, a Jnani also believes that everything really is the grace of God. Truly, truly is the grace of God. And having this understanding, deep, deep understanding, this sort of pride, sort of wrong notions, they do not come up. And hence the importance of bhakti, even on the path of jnana. Now, let's see some great Advaita bhaktas, right? So we've seen how bhakti is important in all paths, right? In the beginning, in the middle, also as the heart of it, and also at the end, that which fulfills it. And we've also seen that bhakti also prevents this mada, this pride. In Narada Bhakti Sutras, Narada ji says that Bhagavan doesn't like pride. Doesn't like pride at all. And the minute we become proud, we will fall. We will go through something. So, in the life of Bhagavan Vedavyasji, now I'm bringing up Bhagavan Vedavyasji because he is somebody that has written the Brahma Sutras. Yeah, yesterday we studied Adi Shankaracharyas' Bhashya, but Adi Shankaracharya wrote the Bhashya, or the commentary on the Brahma Sutras, which were written by Vedavyasji. Vedavyasji has compiled the Upanishads, compiled the Vedas. He has done that. He has written Mahabharata in the Bhagavad Gita. He has written Brahma Sutras. So we see that Vedavyasji is a great Advaitin at heart. He is responsible for so much of the Advaita Shastra that we have today. And yet, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's an episode there where Vedavyasji feels incomplete. He feels like something's lacking. And so he's done all of this. He's written all of this, compiled all of this. And he feels like something's missing. And as always, Naradji, he shows up just at the right time. He has the knack. If anybody has a knack of showing up at the right time, in the right place, that is called Narad Rishi. So Narad Rishi shows up and he asks Vedavyasji what happened. And Vedavyasji says, I have done all of this, but still my heart is not full. I know I am missing something. Now, this is something so great about Vedavyasji because he's done all of the Advaita scriptures. I mean, he's gone in and through the Advaita scriptures. And yet he says, something's missing. So many people who are in the path of Advaita Vedanta feel like they know it all. But Vedavyasji, the one who knows it all, feels like he's missing something. I mean, that's just to show how deep his knowledge is. Knowledge, they say that knowledge brings humility, right? Vidya dadati vinayam. So the one who has knowledge always feels like they don't know enough. They really don't know. The one who doesn't have knowledge feels like they know everything, right? So Vedavyasji recognizes that, and Naradji says, this is because you have not written about the entire life, the glory of Bhagavan in its entirety. You know, you have not written this. That's why your heart is feeling a little bit lacking. And therefore, why don't you do it? Why don't you write the glory of Bhagavan, his Leela, his play in and throughout his life? And so Vedavyasji then writes Srimad Bhagavatam. And at the completion of this, his heart also gains a sense of tripti, fullness. And so even in his life, he also had that feeling. We come to the life of Madhusudana Saraswati ji. Now, again, I am also giving his example because he's somebody who's written Advaita Siddhi, which is a very, very important text in the Advaita tradition. He's also written Gudhartha Deepika, the commentary to the Bhagavad Gita, and many, many other texts. And so the story is that one saint came to visit Madhusudana Saraswati and asked him, I have a question for you. When you are able to win in these debates that you have with others, how do you feel? Do you feel good? He said, yes. And when you're not able to win, how do you feel? Do you feel down? He said, yes. And so this saint said, then that means you still have something to do. There's still something you need to do. And so Madhusudana Saraswati ji said, what do I need to do? He said, you need to chant the name of Sri Krishna. And so Madhusudana Saraswati ji, he loved, adored Balakrishna. And he kept chanting the name of Sri Krishna. And kept chanting and chanting and chanting the name of Sri Krishna. And after some time, nothing happened. He didn't get any darshan. So once he met a cobbler, and the cobbler said, why did you give up chanting? Madhusudana Saraswati ji gave it up. He said, why did you give it up? Don't you have patience? Don't you have dedication? And so Madhusudana Saraswati ji, the story goes on and on, but the moral of the story is that, again, he takes it up. He takes up the chanting of Bhagavan's name, and he has the darshan of Bhagavan, and he's also someone who's written Advaita Siddhi, but also Bhakti Rasayana. So you can see in the life of Vedavyasji that there is this Jnana meeting Bhakti. The Madhusudana Saraswati ji, there is this Jnana meeting Bhakti. What about in the lives of others who we take to be so rooted in Advaita Vedanta? The life of Ramana Maharshi ji. Such a pure Advaita at heart and in the depths of his experience. And yet what a Bhakta for Arunachala. Arunachala. He's written verses on Arunachala. He would always go to do Pradakshina in Arunachala. He saw Arunachala as a living God. What about someone like Swami Tapovan Maharaj? Swami Tapovan Maharaj ji, has written such lovely verses on Bhagavan Shiva, which also he juxtaposes with the Upanishads. And not only that, he sees Mother Ganga as the liquid form of Brahman. He worships her as the liquid form of Brahman. When we see Swami Chinmayananda ji, the bhakti that he has towards Bhagavad Gita, Swami Tejomayananda ji said that, if sannyas wanted to find an abode to stay, they would find it in Swami Tapovan Maharaj. And then another one of our Swamijis said, if the Bhagavad Gita were to find an abode to stay, she would stay in the heart of Swami Chinmayananda ji. What reverence, what bhakti and devotion to the scriptures that he spent his entire life in exposition of it, in writing commentaries about it, in sharing it with other people, and most importantly, in living it to the core. So in the lives of these saints in Advaita, underlying that is a deep devotion, whether it's a devotion for Saguna Brahma, whether it's a devotion for the scriptures, even for the devotion of the country. Swami Vidyaranyaji, who writes Panchadashi, was so devoted to Bharat that he was part of making sure that it's protected and training people to stand up against the invaders. Some of you might ask, but what about any women saints in that Advaita tradition? Oh, yes, they are there. Like Anandamayi Ma. Anandamayi Ma, her teaching is Advaita. At heart, she is constantly so aware that there is only one truth. And she even says in her works that it's like God playing hide and seek with himself, right? Everything is actually that one truth. It is appearing as this world, as the jiva, as the jagat, as this whole entirety. But underlying that is just that one truth. And yet, she goes on to sing the glory of Bhagavan. She goes on to read, to share the glory of Bhagavan. But deep in her heart, she knows that everything is only one. Everything is only that one true reality. So what have we seen so far? We've seen how Jnana meets Bhakti in ways where Bhakti at the beginning, at the middle, at the end, sort of protects not only Jnana, but Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga. Also, we have seen how Jnana meets Bhakti in the lives of such great saints who are so rooted in Advaita or non-duality. So what is this Bhakti? What is this Bhakti that is so much there in the lives of these saints? Now we go to Narada Bhakti Sutras. So I thought it would be nice to juxtapose the Brahma Sutras with Bhakti Sutras. And the Brahma Sutras start with Athato Brahma Jignasa. After having developed the sadhana chatushtaya, the fourfold qualities of the seeker, then that desire for Brahman arises. The Bhakti Sutras are by sage Narada Rishi, and they start with Athato Bhaktim Vyakyasyama. So now let us expound on Bhakti. So there's quite similar the way they started, so that's why I thought it'd be nice to juxtapose it. So the first sutra is, this is Bhakti. The second sutra is where he defined what is Bhakti. Because, now that we're hearing the expression of Bhakti, what Bhakti does, we sort of want to say, okay, I want that in my life. I want to develop that in my life. So what is it first? What is this Bhakti? Sa tu asmin parama prema rupa. Sa means that Bhakti. Tu asmin in that, and we will discuss what that is. Parama prema rupa. Parama prema rupa. It is the nature of supreme devotion. So that devotion is the nature of supreme love. There you go. And devotion is the nature of supreme love directed towards God, towards something higher. So the definition of devotion is, number one, it is supreme love. Supreme love. And what is the supreme love? Where is it directed towards? It's directed towards higher. It can be God. It can be country. It can be towards the guru. It can be towards scriptures, but it has to be something higher. So first we'll look at the word supreme. Then we'll look at what is that higher. So, Parama Prema, Parama, supreme. Supreme means that kind of love that doesn't demand anything in return. We're very funny in this world because we always loving because we want something. So everything in our life becomes so transactional, so incredibly transactional. I love this person because they give me this. And then this is true in our life, right? We love people, we love things because they give us some sense of happiness, some sense of joy. So everything becomes this kind of transactional love, where we are just loving to get something back. And not only are we loving to get something back, if we don't get that back, we stop loving. So many people have this love for Bhagavan, have this love for God, that I love God because I want something from God. So I want God to give me a nice car, a nice house, a nice family, and good health. And if Bhagavan doesn't give me that, then I don't believe in God. There is no God. So this is the kind of love we have. And so that's why we see in the temples, when you go, Bhagavan is standing like this, or Bhagavati, in a smile that says, whatever it is that you're asking, okay, let's see if it really comes to you. Let's see if it comes to you, and Bhagavan's smiling because he's waiting to see who is going to ask for me. Because when somebody asks for me, then I will move mountains and hills and oceans. Then I will move everything. So smiling there, okay, this one's asking for money. This one's asking for shelter. This one's asking for support. Is there anyone asking for me? That's bhakti. Bhakti means the supreme love. Supreme means where we love to love and not expect or demand anything in return. We are just loving. Just pure love. That's called supreme love. Guruji Swami Tejamayinandaji says, God is not our wish fulfiller. Don't think that God is our wish fulfiller, that everything we want will be given to us. God is our well-wisher. Whatever is required for us will come. When will it come? In its own time. From who will it come? From whomever it has to come. But whatever is required for us will come. If it doesn't come, it means it's not required. So don't think about it. Supreme love. Parama prema. Then it says, tu asmin. So it's not just this supreme love where we are loving without demanding, expecting anything in return, but it's that supreme love that is dedicated to something higher. Now, the question becomes, how do I know that something is higher? Right? The examples that I gave you are our country, our guru, our form of God or goddess, our scriptures. It's that supreme love dedicated to something higher. How do I know it's higher? We know something is higher because it's something that makes us expand to love all. It makes us expand to love all. So when we are dedicated to Guru, now Guru is not, a true Guru will not only say, you only love me or serve me or, do this. A true Guru will say that, think of everyone around you. Think of what's happening around you. True service to the Guru is being able to serve everybody who is along with the vision of the Guru. Not just the Guru, not that I'm just going to serve you. The true Guru will make you think. Don't only come to me. Think of all the people who are involved. Think of everybody who's coming together. And serving all of them is true service. Same with Bhagavan. When we serve Bhagavan, when we love Bhagavan, what happens is Bhagavan makes us understand and slowly realize that I am in everybody. If we're doing puja to Bhagavan in our house. We're doing a ritualistic prayer. And then outside, we're so loving. We say, I dedicate everything to you. You are my everything. I have so much love for you. And then outside, when someone does something to us, we get so incredibly angry. That is not devotion. That is just a joke. At least we're practicing something, so it's okay. But it's just quite funny. So when we worship also that form of God or goddess, it's something that has to make us expansive, to make us realize that that God is in everybody. When we worship our scriptures also make us realize that that truth is in everybody. That's why it's higher. So something is higher because it makes us understand that that reality is in all. That is one way to know that it is higher. When we worship our country, when we dedicate our lives serving our country, that also is something higher. It makes us embrace every single being in that country. That is called Bhakti. Now, not only higher does not only mean somebody who makes us expand to understand that there's one reality in all, but higher also means someone who takes us beyond that. So what's so great about our tradition, our guru will tell us, you go beyond me. You go beyond me. The guru will never want to keep the shishya with the shishya, with the guru. The guru will never want the student to be with the guru all the time. That's not a real guru. The real guru will make the student independent. Say, now I've taught you everything. Now go. Our very same scriptures, our Shruti will say, now after you know me, now you don't need any more books. You don't need any more Upanishad. To whom? To the one who knows this knowledge and completely abides in it. Not to us. The one who knows and completely abides in it. The scriptures will say, now you also leave me. Bhagavan. When we worship Bhagavan with form, with name, and we intensely worship Bhagavan, that Bhagavan will say, now go beyond me. I'm going to reveal my nirguna nature to you. So we know that something is higher because it also takes us beyond them. It doesn't keep us in that realm. And so that is called Bhakti. That supreme love, without demanding, to a higher altar. And we know that it's higher because it makes us see oneness in all, and it also takes us beyond that very altar which we serve, is devotion. So when we look at Naraji's words, so power-packed. It's a small sutra, like the Brahma Sutras are small sutras, but in one, there's just so much to unpack. I remember this one story we were told. There was a devotee of Swami Chinmayanandaji, and she used to take her Krishna idol with her everywhere she went. She was traveling with Swami Chinmayanandaji, and she took it and she would bathe it in the river and everything. And it so happened that one time the river washed the idol away. And so she was very sad about it because this is something that she always traveled with. She always kept close to her heart. Swami Chinmayanandaji said, now you must go beyond the form. So even that God takes us beyond him. You see this in our Sanatana Dharma. A very nice example is our Ganesh Chaturthi. We we bring Ganesha to our homes, and we worship Ganesha for a certain number of days. And after that, we immerse that Ganesha in water. So what is it saying? Worship the form and come to the formless. So this is called Bhakti. And it is seen in and through all of our practices. If you really think about all the things we do, it's all pertaining to this way. Okay, what else is this bhakti? So in Sutra 3, and as I said, I'm referring to Narada Bhakti Sutras. So if you want to pick up and read about Bhakti Sutras, this is a very, very beautiful text. Amrita Swarupa Sha. That bhakti is of the nature of Amrita Swarupa. Swarupa, nature of Amrita, immortality. Now, this is also very beautiful. That bhakti brings us to know our immortal self. What is mortality? When we think of the word mortality, mortality means death, right? Mortality rates like that, you see. But what is really mortality? It's change. Because at every change, there is a death. There is some kind of death. So a childhood will die into adolescence, right? It's a change, but when the childhood moves to adolescence, there's a death of one and a life of the other. The adolescence changes into adulthood, right? So adolescence, the teenage stage, changes into adulthood. Again, there is a death of one stage and the entry into another. Or we take the seasons that we have. The rainy season will slowly go into the winter season, let's say. So there's a death of one into the other. So mortality is change. And more specifically, mortality is identifying with change. So when we completely identify with change, then we are mortal. And this is very much in line with the question that was asked yesterday, the difference between Jiva and Atma. So Jiva is nothing but the mortal self that's identifying with every single aspect that's changing. Identifying not only with the body, the mind, and intellect. Surprisingly, we do have 5 koshas, right? We in Advaita Vedanta, we all know the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya, Anandamaya. So it is said in our scriptures we have 5 sheets, but really now we have like 10. Because we're not only identifying with the changes in our bodies and minds and intellect, changes in the phone. We're so affected. Our phone is not working. Our phone is dead. Our phone is low in battery. Oh my goodness, we are so affected. Our status, our YouTube status or Facebook or Instagram status is changing. You know, it's getting this rating. It's not getting this rating. Oh my goodness, we are so affected. Our houses, our cars, our things, something's happening to it. And we are so incredibly affected. So if we think about life, we have so many sheets. Probably, you know, in our Upanishads, we have 5. But if we really think about it, we may have 10 or even more, which is so scary. So when we identify with all of these changing sheets, changing things, that is called mortality. But when we identify with that which is immortal, that is called immortality. That's called Amrita. Amrita. So as I said yesterday, we cannot make the body immortal or the mind immortal, the intellect immortal. It's not designed that way. It's going to decay. It's going to be destroyed. That's its nature. The nature of matter is to change, is to go through growth and decay, and to ultimately be destroyed. That is the nature of matter. You cannot change its nature. But what we can do is identify with the changeless and just enjoy the change. Enjoy the change. Because if things didn't change, we would also be so sad. If this talk went on and on and on, we would be so sad. Even if we were watching our favorite movie and if it went on and on and on, we would be so sad. So we shouldn't, be so sad that things are changing, because if they didn't change, we would be pretty sad. So bhakti, again, coming back to Amrita Swarupa, is that ability to identify, be united with that immortal self, that seat of immortality. That is the depth of bhakti. This is Amrita Swarupa. Amrita Swarupa. So now, okay, now we know the nature of bhakti. We know what it is. What happens? What happens when we gain bhakti? When we gain supreme devotion, like that's being talked about here, what does it do for us? Sutra 4. Yallabdva puman siddho bhavati, amrito bhavati, tripto bhavati. Yallabdva means yat labdva. Labdva, having gained yat. Yat means bhakti. Having gained bhakti, that supreme love directed towards the higher, puman, a being, becomes siddhaha bhavati, becomes accomplished, and we will go through what this means. Then amritaha bhavati. Amrita means again immortal, but here it's in a different context. And triptaha, one becomes satisfied. Triptaha bhavati. So first let's look at siddha. Siddha means somebody who has accomplished everything, somebody who has attained perfection. So one who has gained this supreme devotion, what happens? They are able to realize the truth so incredibly quickly. So incredibly quickly. In Shvetashvataropanishad, there is a mantra here. It says, now this is the last mantra of the Upanishad. Okay, last mantra. It says, this last mantra gives the sure way of gaining God realization. Sure way. Yasya deva para bhaktihi. The one who has para bhaktihi, supreme devotion. Again, it's using the same words. It's really beautiful to see how in the Upanishads it matches the Bhakti Sutra. The one who has supreme devotion, yatha deve tatha guru, means for the guru as God. So it entails two things. One has to have supreme devotion for God first, and then supreme devotion for the guru as God, that the guru and God are actually one. But supreme devotion for both, tasyaite katitha hyarthaha. To that being, katitha arthaha. Arthaha, the meaning of the Upanishads, katita, which have been spoken. This is in Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Prakashante, they all become revealed. Why? Mahatmanaha. Because that person becomes Mahatma. Mahatma, the one who's expanded, who's grown, who's come to such a state wherein they are able to love and accommodate all. So siddha bhavati means that one gains perfection in knowledge. In not my words, but in Shvetashvatara Upanishad, you can clearly see one who has devotion for God and devotion for Guru like God, to that being, the scriptures, the meaning of the scriptures become very, very clear. They reveal themselves. Why? Because, again, going back to what I talked about, the mind through devotion becomes purified, the mind through devotion becomes single-pointed, and the mind through devotion becomes subtle. It turns inward. And so these meanings become so clear. Another thing that I want to also bring up is that this is seen in Mandukya Upanishad. Now, if you look at the Upanishad itself, before that mantra of na antaf prajnam, na bahish prajnam, before saying that, one is not this virat, not this hiranyagarbha, not this prajna. That means basically one is not total gross bodies, the total subtle bodies, the total causal bodies, before it goes to that mantra of saying, I am not any of this. The mantras before that say, first, when you come to the Upanishad, you are Virat. Virat means that consciousness which is associated with the total gross bodies. All gross bodies in all lokas, in all realms, that consciousness associated with that, you are that, right? First it says, you are that, jagrata sthana vaishvanara. So if you look at Mandukya Upanishad, it doesn't even start, you can't start like you're a jiva. You can't start like you're a jiva. You have to come to Virat. We have to come to such a post wherein we are able to identify and acknowledge all the gross bodies entirely. And then after that, it makes us, it says again, that we are that consciousness associated with all the subtle bodies, all the subtle bodies. And then it says that we are that consciousness associated with all the causal bodies. And then finally it says that we are above and beyond that. We are Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam, Chaturtham Manyanti. We are that pure being. So what I mentioned yesterday, why Shravanam is important under a teacher, is because the prakriya is adhyaropa apavada. Means there's a building up and then there's a breaking down. So even in the Mandukya Upanishad, it's a building up. You are this whole expanse. And then you're absolutely beyond it. You are none. There's only one. That all is just an appearance. Huh? So this is very often what we miss. We miss this. And even in Taittiriya Upanishad, if you look at Taittiriya Upanishad, what comes before Brahmananda Vali, that Vali of knowledge, is Shiksha Vali. And in Shiksha Vali, certain upasanas or practices are there to make us understand that we are all. We are the earth, we are the sky, we are the heavens, we are every single being. It makes us think so expansively so that we are ready to embrace that knowledge. So this bhakti also has a very unique capacity of chitta vishalata. It makes us expand. Otherwise, we enter Advaita Vedanta like this. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not anything. I am pure Atman. And we have so many problems of likes and dislikes and accepting and not accepting and disturbance because we haven't fully expanded to transcend. So here in Sutra, coming back to Narada Bhakti Sutra, when it says, Yallabdva Puman Siddho Bhavati, it means that this bhakti brings that vishalata, that expansiveness. So that knowledge becomes perfect, Because if I'm not able to do that, then knowledge is not really true knowledge, we can say. As I said, knowledge has to be drenched and oozing in love. Amrito bhavati. Amrito here, the second amritaha, means that one is fearless. With bhakti, one becomes fearless. How so? Because number one, bhakti brings that knowledge to us, that knowledge of the truth, and therefore what jnana brings is abhayam, right? Abhayam, fearlessness, because fearlessness comes when we know there's no duality. There's nothing other apart from us. So what are we going to fear? So it is to that extent that somebody who's rooted in this jnana and bhakti will see even other things as good. And the best example I can give you is Swami Tapovan Maharaj. Swami Tapovan Maharaj was the guru of Swami Chinmayananda, right? And this is one of my favorite episodes of his life because it just showed me what a true Jnani and Bhakta he was. Swami Tapovan Maharaj used to trek a lot in the Himalayas. In fact, he has a very beautiful book, Wandering in the Himalayas. And he loved to wander. He loved to look at nature. And it wasn't just looking, but it was just feeling its expression as God. And he used to go to Kailash quite often. And one of the episodes in his life is that he's coming back from Kailash. And as you know, he was on his own. On one of his trips, he was on his own as a sannyasi. And he doesn't really carry anything with him. He has his clothes. He's emaciated. Emaciated, probably wouldn't have eaten for a long time. And it's raining and he's barefoot. It's raining and he's walking and he's walking. And he feels like his body's gotten so weak that he doesn't know what to do. And just when he's about to give up, it starts to snow. So just when you think, okay, is God going to relieve this rain for me or what? It starts to snow. And he just lays down on a boulder because the body is just not strong enough to carry on. And what's he thinking? At that point in time, all of us would be scared. What's going to happen to me? Where am I going to go? You know, will anybody come rescue me? How will people find me? How long will this snow go on? Our minds would be so incredibly agitated, so many thoughts. But being ever rooted in that non-duality, he saw everything as one. And being ever devoted to that living God, he just thought, I wonder how God will take care of me today. I wonder what God will do for me today. So he's not afraid, but he's curious. And this is a sign of a beautiful Bhakta. Somebody who's not afraid when the situations get a little bit hard outside. They will get, because the weather changes, things fluctuate, people go up and down. But in the midst of all of this, he's not afraid, he's curious. What will God do? And sure enough, after some time, there were a few people who carried him to a place where he could just rest and relax. This is amritaha bhavati. This is what happens to a bhakta. And then triptaha bhavati. What is triptaha? Tripta is that condition where one doesn't want anything anymore. One doesn't want anything anymore. And the next sutra will explain what tripta is, but I'll just tell you a sort of a joke. There's a question as to who is more content in life. Someone who's more content in life. Who would it be? Is it somebody who has 10 children, or is it somebody who has $1 billion? And the answer is somebody who has 10 children. Why? Because they don't want any more children. But the one who has $1 billion will still want $1 billion. So tripta is fulfillment. And tripta is actually the definition of success in life. Many people ask sometimes, how do you define success? What is success? Right? Is success reaching your goal of I set out this target that I should make this much money and I should have this kind of career, I should grow my business by this much, and I achieve it? Is that success? Or is success that I want to develop a social community, a social engagement platform, I want to have this many friends and this many people around? Is that success? Or that I want to be this famous, I want to achieve this position, this top position in this particular place or company or organization, whatever it is it success? It's not success because after we reach those posts, those goals, those places, what happens is we still want more. And so we're not fulfilled. So no matter how far we go, we're still not content. So triptaha means we come to a place where we don't want anymore. And whatever comes, let it come. That's called triptaha. And that contentment is fulfillment, and that fulfillment is true success. True success is where I don't want anymore. I just do what I have to do, live my life the way I have to live it. And whatever comes, it comes. Perfectly okay. So now we're moving on to Sutra 5, right? So he's describing now that kind of contentment that a bhakta has. And again, we are exploring this. So hopefully after this, it will kindle some devotion in our hearts, or some curiosity at least of what this path of devotion is. Sutra 5. Yat prapya na kinchit vanchati, na kinchit shochati, na dveshti, na ramate, notsahi bhavati. How does a bhakta become yat prapya? Again, yat, having attained, prapya is having attained, yat, that devotion. What devotion? That supreme devotion. This is not ordinary devotion. Having attained that supreme devotion, what happens? Na kinchit vanchati. So one doesn't desire anything. So as I said, one reaches that state of complete contentment. Complete contentment. There's nothing more that I want. And if you look at this from the Jnana perspective, why does one reach contentment? It's because the desire is gone, right? Desires only come up. Desires for all those, the world and this and the name and the fame and the people, pleasure, only come up if there's a desirer. So from the Jnana perspective, there is no desirer anymore. And then on top of that, there is also no desired object. There's no desired object because the world is just an appearance on me. Remember, again, I'm tying it to what we studied yesterday and today in the beginning. So there's no desirer, there is no desired object. So who is there to want and what is there to want? There is nothing. And therefore, there is no want. There is no want. But does that mean that one won't act in the world, one won't be in the world? Of course they will, but there is no desire to complete themselves. There's a desire to eat, there's a desire to drink, there's a desire to sleep. Of course it's there, because while the body is there and the mind is there, there's going to be a desire to eat and drink and sleep, to drink water, sleep, to eat, to walk. There's going to be these desires, but there's no desire to feel complete. May I get this to be complete? Na vanchati. And for the life of a bhakta also, na vanchati. There's nothing else. I have gotten Bhagavan. I have achieved that truth. I have soaked myself in that Bhagavan. True bhakti is union. So once you've united with that Bhagavan of yours, then again, what will you want? You cannot want that Bhagavan because that Bhagavan is you, right? The essence of you and the essence of God is the same. So nakinchit vanchati. And then nakinchit shochati. There is no grief. There's no grief. No grief meaning, like what I said yesterday, it doesn't mean that situations won't come, problems won't come, challenges won't come. It doesn't mean that they won't all come. They will come, but they will not see the problem as a problem. Swami Chinmayanandaji used to say that there are three ways that people see things. They see it as a situation, as a problem, and as a crisis. So to one who doesn't have that spirit of jnana or bhakti, we'll see everything as a crisis. Everything is a crisis. It's a crisis. No matter how small it is, we make it so incredibly big, and that we're unable to even see what's there beyond it because it's a big, big crisis. When we're a little bit more aware and alert, we see it as a problem. We're bummed out. This problem had to come. Why now? Why me? Why again I have to go through this? This is just too hard. And we see it as a problem. But a jnani and bhakta, the crisis that becomes a problem just becomes a situation. It's there. It's there because it's the nature of the world. It's the nature of the body. It's the nature of the mind. It's the nature of all these things. It's there. But I won't get disturbed by it. It's there. It'll happen. It'll come. It'll go. But nashoch. One doesn't get disturbed in it. And also because one's mind is so engrossed in the higher that it appears so small. Something can only appear so small, a situation, if the mind is engrossed in something higher. Like Swami Chinmayanandaji used to say, when you're flying a plane and when you're going so high, everything appears so small. So for a bhakta, when your mind is so high, that truth, that divinity, then everything appears so small. And then it says here, nadveshti, no enmity. No enmity, because everything is an expression of that God alone. There's nothing that exists apart from God. Everything is an expression of that. So how can I be angry, upset? How can I have enmity or hatred towards that? That is also an expression of the divine play. Everything is a divine play. From the dirt to the trash, to the pollution, through the beauty of the sunrise, everything is an expression of the divine play. Everything is all part of that lila. Naramate. Naramate means doesn't rejoice anymore in the world. So there's a nice quote I'm going to read here, which is in the commentary Swami Chinmayanandaji. Says, how can there be any attraction for the foul-smelling ditch water of sensuality to one who is swimming in the ocean of Hari Bhakti? So again, for one whose mind is soaked in that devotion, how can there be an attraction to foul-smelling ditch water? The mind will not anymore revel in the lower. That's the fruit of Bhakti. And na utsahi. Utsahi means interest. But interest in what? Self-interest. No more interest in selfish pursuits, in selfish things, in things that are just for me. There's definitely interest and enthusiasm for the divine, for God, to love more, to seek more, to know more. But there's no self-interest in one's own being, or there is no interest anymore in the world. The taste has gone. The taste, like Swami Chinmayanandaji says, I chewed that gum and I spat it out. So the taste for the world has gone. That raga, that like, that attraction for the glitter and the glamour has gone. And it has turned into anuraga, that devotion to the Lord. So this is how Naradaji, he defines Bhakti in his Bhakti Sutras. So now I'll just summarize what we've seen in these 2 days. Jnana is knowledge, and the path of knowledge directly leads to liberation. There's absolutely no question about it, because the problem as Adi Shankaracharyas established for us in Adhyasa Bhashya, is ignorance and error. Ignorance and Adhyasa, superimposition. Ourselves taking the self, that self, pure Atman, we are taking ourselves to be the body, the mind, the intellect. We are taking this world to be incredibly real and a source of happiness. And because of these limitations, we suffer in this world. And once we understand our real nature, who we are, and that we are also substratum for the entire world to appear, then that is knowledge. But it's not just that understanding. Remember, it's something that's transformative. It's that understanding with an expression in our daily living. And that knowledge becomes so drenched, so full, so content, so alive with the practice of devotion. Whether devotion is practiced before coming to knowledge, to prepare the seeker's mind, or as one is listening and reflecting and contemplating, to add supplement and love to the path of knowledge, or whether one practices it even after knowledge as an expression for love for all, and even love that is beyond everything and everyone. It gives true fulfillment. It gives true contentment. And it brings us to such a place where, as Naraji says, we don't want anything anymore. We're not grieved by things because we've risen above their pettiness. We are not craving this world anymore, nor enthusiastic about pursuing it, but we are able to sit still and revel in the truth that we already are. This is what happens when Jnana meets Bhakti. Okay, so I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Shubhani ji. That was a very lovely exposition of Jnana Meets Bhakti. And it was very refreshing and rejuvenating for me to hear and to bring both of them together, tying it both together, and also with those lovely anecdotes that you shared of Gurudev. Thank you so much for doing this. Dear viewers, if you have any questions, I request you to please post them in the Q&A box. And as they come, I shall relay them to Shubhani ji. And as they come, Shubhani ji, I just wanted to ask you, how does Shraddha, where does Shraddha come into Bhakti, and how important is Shraddha in the scheme of these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Shraddha, or we say faith, right? Faith is that where they say in Vivekachudamani, it says, Yaya Vastu Palabhyate. It is that by which we start, we start anything. So the first part of faith is Astikya Buddhi. Astikya Buddhi means that belief that there is something there. I might not know what it is, but there's a belief that there is something there. So when it comes to God, I might not know all about God or what exactly God means and all of that, but I have some working faith. It's not a blind faith. Shraddha is not a blind faith. It's a working faith. It's a working faith where I start this path knowing that there's something there. I don't know what it is. I'm not clear what it is, but there could be something there and I want to check it out, and let me just try. And so this is Astikya Buddhi, for Bhagavan or for scriptures or the truth. That's called Shraddha. And that Shraddha when we have faith, what happens is we put forth effort, right? Because if we don't have faith in somebody, we will not put forth effort. If we don't have faith in a person, we will never give them work, right? I don't have faith in this person, therefore I'm not giving work to that person. But when we have faith in something or somebody, we put all of our effort towards it. We put everything towards it. When we really believe in someone or something, we give it our all. So our effort is proportionate to our shraddha, our faith. So in the beginning, a working faith is required. Now, very beautifully, once Swamiji told me the difference between shraddha and bhakti. So in shraddha, we have faith that there must be some God. There is some God. But what is bhakti? Bhakti is, that's my God. That's owning out that I have such a deep relationship with Bhagavan, and that Bhagavan is mine, and I am his. That is called bhakti. So devotion starts with shraddha, but when we own up that relationship, that's called bhakti.
Lovely, lovely. I haven't heard of such a lucid and simple explanation to this. Thank you so much, Shubhani ji. One more question I hold is, how important is mantra and japa in terms of practicing bhakti?
So mantra is very, very important. Mantra and japa. So why is it important in bhakti? In self-unfoldment, Swami Chinmayanandaji brings three things to our mind, right? What does japa do? Japa, first it divinizes the mind, and then it helps us to exclude all of other thoughts, and it helps us to turn the mind inward. So all these problems that I told you with the mind, that japa takes care of in one shot. Because when japa means, first we'll go into what japa means, the repeated chanting of the name of God or a mantra. This is called japa. And of course, that japa is to be done with shraddha and bhakti, right? So that is implied. So what happens? It's not chanting chair, 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 chair. Because even if I'm just chanting chair, 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 I may be just thinking about the chair, but that's not divinizing my mind, right? So it has to be a name of God that is one. And when I chant the name of God, what happens? When I chant Om Namah Shivaya, what happens? What happens is those very values, those very virtues that Bhagavan Shiva stands for, I'm able to imbibe and be immersed in them. So I'm able to imbibe and be immersed in those values, so much so that they just become a part of me without even knowing. So that's why they say that those who take up an Ishta Devata, they become like that Ishta Devata, knowingly or unknowingly, because when we keep chanting something, those very values come into us. So that is one point. And the second point is that the mind cannot go anywhere. If we're actually practicing japa, then there's that constant effort to bring your mind back to that form or that name. We cannot just do japa, and move our mala and let the mind move everywhere and anywhere. That's not japa. Japa means that constant effort of bringing the mind back, bringing the mind back wherever and whenever it wanders. So that practice is gained through japa. And when we're able to do it in japa, imagine what we're able to do in and through our work then. Whenever our mind is wandering, we're more alert. It's going somewhere, right? And of course, that japa turns into silence. When we get very, very, very deep into it, the mind becomes silent. So when I'm chanting chair, 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 the mind is not going to become silent. But when I chant Om Namah Shivaya, it will become silent. And finally, one more thing I will say is japa creates a harmony and a rhythm in one's life. So when you like a particular song, when anyone likes a particular song or music, or anything like that, and you keep listening to it, without you knowing, you're chanting it, you're singing it, it just comes to you, right? And it's coming in the back of your mind. It's there, you know, while we're cooking, we're singing, when the shower, we're singing, it's just coming and coming and coming. So subconsciously, it's entering the mind. So when we are so rooted in japa, subconsciously, then it just enters the mind. And what more beautiful thing to be in the mind than the name of God?
Wow. Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much, Shivani ji, for that explanation. And one more question that I have is, how do we, one question I've been really holding and thinking, pondering upon for some time is, how do we communicate the significance of bhakti in one's life to youth? Because I see how much of the challenges or the present context of the youth worldwide, how it could be addressed through bhakti. So what are your some of your insights on this, Shubhani?
So for the youth, the best way to reach bhakti is through seva. So we have to give them a bigger, because Ishvara bhakti is a little bit tough for the youth. It's a tough because, you know, for those of us who grew up with it, then it's very easy. We're not going to question, and it's very natural to worship God with a form or goddess with a form. It's natural almost. But a lot of youth now do not grow up with that, and are very kind of inquisitive and curious about who God is and what is this truth and how is it that this whole world, you know, God is that the creator, the sustainer, the destroyer of this whole world. How is that all possible? So for youth, what we do is we give them bhakti through seva. We let themselves see themselves outside of their family setting. So what is it that we can do for the community? So there is still that bhakti. Remember, bhakti is parama prema rupa, right? To asmin and something higher. So let me look now at my community. And let me see how I can love, give, and serve to my community. And then another deeper level is through the nation, through nation building. That's also bhakti, because after all, Bharat is Mata, right? She's Mata. So, you know, what can we do towards our nation or towards our country? And when we give or show youth this kind of bhakti, that's something that really helps them to grow and unfold. If they're not so akin to Ishvara Bhakti.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shivani ji. We don't have any questions, so I think we could conclude the series of talks with that. Once again, on behalf of Indica Moksha, I would like to express our gratitude for accepting our invite and doing this talk. I'm pretty sure all the viewers would have benefited immensely. And I'm saying this through my own experience that I have been benefited a lot. Thank you so much, Shivani ji. Let us conclude. Before that, any remarks, closing remarks from your end?
No, again, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And I'm so happy that there is this platform for us to constantly revel in the truth that we are. So thank you for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. We shall conclude with the Shanti Mantra. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Dhanyavad. Hari Om.